guys, this is just a quick re-upload of a video I posted earlier this year. Just had to make some slight changes to it for various reasons. If you do like the video, just click the like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share it with your friends. And I've just realised that I've done windscreen number 3 this year. This one has only been in the car for 3 weeks, if that. So pretty stoked about that. Okay, so I'm not a I'm just a punter. I'm not sponsored or any of that sort of stuff. Everything here I've paid for with my own money. It's my second Jeep. For those who don't know, so this is a 2020 2.2 diesel Jeep Wrangler. Personally, I think it's probably the best engine that's come out in one of these things. It's that engine's mated to a 8-speed ZF gearbox with the Rubicon transfer case, low range in it. So yeah, the thing is unreal combination there. Plenty of torque. It crawls unbelievably, so controllable, and I think probably the most reliable engine that Jeep's put in these Wranglers. In my opinion, it's much better than the 3-litre diesel they have in the US. That thing just seems to be plagued with issues. It's just probably too big of engine to be squeezed into the engine bay, in my opinion. This thing's much smaller, has no issues with the cooling, and just generally you don't really hear too many issues with them. Probably the worst thing I've heard is someone contacted me and said that they had their turbo blow, but other than that, you can Google it all day and you really don't hear too many issues with these things, and it just runs great. Just in saying that, obviously it's only a fairly new vehicle, these Wranglers, and you know, the longevity of them, you know, it's that's to be sort of discovered, I guess. We'll find out at a later date, but so far I love it. You know, we just got back from the Cape, probably some of the harshest conditions you could find in the planet, and this, I think, had no dramas at all. So absolutely stoked with it so far. Being the Rubicon, does come with front and rear locking diffs and that front axle disconnect. There's plenty of info of that online. There's nothing new there, but it is yeah, certainly loaded for a 4-wheel drive. You really couldn't ask for anything else, really. Right, so before we crack on, if you could do me a favour, just click that, if you do like the video, just click that like button for us, down that corner, just down there it should be. It just really helps to like spread the content a bit on YouTube and help that algorithm they all talk about. But we're just trying to build our channel a bit, so if you can just help us, yeah, click that like button and subscribe for us if you do like the content. Yeah, so whip straight into it. We'll start with the outside of the car and the mods we've done. We'll start with just go from front to back, really. So we'll start with the bull bar. Okay, we've gone with the ARB bar. There are a couple of different bars available for the Wrangler, but in Australia, pretty sure we're limited to this ARB Deluxe winch bar. I know in the US they've got the Bondi bar that doesn't have the centre hoop, but basically a similar design. The reason why we've gone for this is, firstly, it's ADR compliant, airbag compliant, so it's fully legal. It's got excellent approach angles there, and absolutely solid as a rock. So being in Australia, we need, you know, if you're touring Australia, you really do need protection from animal strikes, and you know, which means you need the centre hoop that's there to protect the radiator and some of those other vital components if you do get an animal strike. You know, there's almost no point having a bar on your car if you get an animal strike and it completely destroys your radiator and those other components. That's the end of your trip. So that's why we've gone ARB bar. Steady spotties. They're the Sport X, I think they're called. Absolutely love them. Yeah, we'll do a full review on all these bits and pieces. But these, yeah, the steadies are awesome, and the best thing about them is these brackets are absolutely rock solid. The construction's rock solid. They're not the brightest things in the world, these Sport, but they're also not too bright. Okay? You do have an issue with, you know, glare coming off the signs and just blinding you back. So these are quite good for that. Yeah, I actually don't mind them being not too bright. It's quite handy. Winch is I hate to say it, but it's a King's Dominator Extreme. That's 12,000 pound winch. Yes, I removed the King's label. I just couldn't stand the sight of it, so we'll just pull that off. And yeah, a lot of people ask me what sort of winch it is. But yeah, that's just a King's winch, 12,000 pound. And used it quite a few times already. And it's never been a drama. Like, in terms of quality, yeah, the quality certainly isn't there. And I find the wiring a bit messy. Like, I've done my best to, when I've installed it, I've done my best to make a tidy job of it. But yeah, as you can see, like, just the obvious signs of low quality is the fading of these, you know, these red wires. It's just, yeah, that's just the way it is. You pay for what you get, but it, you know, it pulls strong and hasn't, yeah, it's run fine so far. No issues with that. Okay, next thing along, we've got our Safari snorkel. Look, I mean, it's a snorkel. It does its job. It just runs straight into the airbox in the engine bay. And what's to tell, really? It is quite a big snorkel. It's quite a, it is quite wide in the sense that you will get a lot of airflow in there, but whether that makes any difference, I don't know. It's got the ram head. Again, you know, they've done all sorts of testing in terms of whether it makes a difference in power. If it does make any difference, it's pretty much, it's not noticeable. Yes, you can hear it from the driver's cab, sucking away. But yeah, look, it's a snorkel. What is there to say? A lot of people argue and carry on about them, but it's a snorkel, and you know, it does its job. One of my favourite mods is the roof rack. So we're on an ARB base rack, and that, I'll just show you what it does. It doesn't actually attach to the roof. So the roof, obviously, for these Jeeps is, it's not rated to anything, so you can't actually load the roof itself with anything, but the rack itself just it bolts into the tub, and then it bolts into the roll cage itself as well. Now I did a bit of fair bit of research in terms of what rack we should put on it, and it was the obvious choice. There's Rhino rack and there's front runner. Front runner, I think, is probably the good option, but just the cost was just astronomical, and just, I think, a bit unreasonable for what I needed. I certainly didn't need the full length of the roof, but yeah, look at that thing. This thing is absolutely rock solid. So it's hard to find what it's actually rated to. But when you, everything I've researched, he says it's rated up to about 130 kilos. So, yeah, like, you'll absolutely have no dramas putting pretty much anything up there. You know, I've had a few people comment saying you've overloaded your roof, you know, with the swag and the gas bottle and the chaos box up there. But look, it's not anywhere near overloaded. It just came along. You know, just did a trip along to Cape York, where it's just hundreds of kilometres of heavily corrugated roads that no car would, you know, if you could survive that, then you'd be fine, then you'd survive anything. But this thing, absolutely no dramas with it whatsoever. Absolutely rock solid. Yeah, I love it, and it's really opened up a lot of options in terms of what we can do with the truck and what we can carry. So you'll notice up there we've got the chaos box. in there, I'll keep all my recovery gear, so and a few other bits and pieces that can get dirty. It's just, I think it's bad juju putting your recovery gear inside the vehicle, especially a lot of people put it in the rear draw system. Yeah, bad idea. Okay, if you get bogged, you got to get out of the car and open the rear of the car to get it open, and then it's going to let even water in. So yeah, bad idea. Put your recovery gear on the outside of the car where you can access it in emergency, because that's when you're going to need it. You know, things go wrong when times when you just least expect it. Okay, also up in the rack, we've got our 270 awning. Look, it's alright. I got the Drifter Stockton awning because it was, well, firstly cheap. It was about 990 bucks Australian. It was the lightest freestanding awning I could get, and it's been good. Like it doesn't have a huge amount of coverage, but the way I've got my going to take by a blowfly here. Yeah, so sorry, we just get attacked by a blowfly there for a bit, and some other dude just drove in and while I was recording, and it feels a bit weird sort of standing in the middle of the bush and talking to a camera while there's someone watching. So yeah, Drifter Stockton awning. Yeah, it's been good. Only like we'll do a full review on all these bits and pieces a bit later. You know, a few little I wouldn't say modifications, but a bit of Loctite, and the thing's been fine so far. It deploys in about probably, you can get it up in, I'll put a little overlay with the drone, but you can get it up in maybe probably less than 30 seconds. So it's really handy for that. You set up real quick. Yeah, and yeah, it's really good. I love it. So we've also got a, it's like a NX. So use this, particularly good for if you're traveling with you know, female company. It's just good to have someone there. They can get changed or do whatever they need to do. Again, we'll just put a bit of an overlay of how quick that sets up. It works fine. I just find that I can't leave it up, because if I do leave it up, I can't get to this door. That's probably the only downside to that. But other than that, it's, you know, it's an XGM brand, nothing special. But again, yeah, that's a handy little thing to have. So one of the most important mods you can do to your car is four-wheel drive is going to be tyres. We've gone for the BFG KM3s. I had them on my JK before I traded it in, and absolutely loved them. So these are a 285 7017, roughly a 33-inch tyre. I've gone for that size tyre. I mean, in the US, you know, it's a big cultural thing to have, you know, 35, 37-inch tyres. Look, yeah, it's good if you're going to be doing some rock crawling and that sort of stuff. But in Australia, we have huge distances to cover, so it's not uncommon to do, you know, 1,000, 1,200 kilometres in a day's drive. And you know, running 35-inch tyres, it's going to be catastrophic for your fuel economy. Heaps of wear on your drivetrain and other components, and it's just not. It's, in my opinion, it just isn't worth it. There's too many negatives to run big tyres than it is to run some smaller tyres. And if you can't get, the way I see it is, if you can't get anywhere, if you can't get places with 33s, maybe you should probably look at your driving, because there is absolutely nothing wrong with 33s. They will get you absolutely everywhere, especially if you've got a winch. They're an awesome tyre, absolutely love them. They're rock solid. It's just, you know, again, take them to Cape York. Some really bad conditions up there, and absolutely not a drama at all. One thing to note is that when we were driving along the Peninsula Development Road, it's quite a rough road. One of the tyres has flicked up it was actually a wheel weight for the tyres. It's flicked it up in the tread and actually lodged it into the guard, and it didn't get a puncture. So they are absolutely rock solid. I think honestly, I reckon yeah, probably the best tyre on the market, in my opinion. I'll absolutely rate them. Suspension wise, we're running the Old Man Emu suspension system. So that's just a 2-inch lift, running the standard Nitrocharger Sport shocks. They're rated springs rated to obviously the diesel engine, which is heavier than about 200 kilos heavier than the petrol. So you need that extra rate to account for that. And then it's rated to have the bull bar and the winch there as well. We've replaced the lower control arms with the Old Man Emu heavy duty adjustable control arms. And later on, when the bushings wear out, we'll replace the pan hard rod with the Old Man Emu one as well. Again, like it's, I think with the factory ones, you can't actually change the bushes, you've got to swap out the whole pan hard rod. But with the Old Man Emu ones, you can just change the bushes out. Yeah, it's probably cheaper than getting a replacement factory one anyway. That suspension's been absolutely awesome. It really does handle the corrugations really well. Doesn't negatively affect the flex at all. It still flexes great, and just generally handles really good. Just drives like it does in factory. Being that it's got a bit of 2-inch lift, you do get a bit of bump steer across some of those lumpy roads, but that's just because it's a slight lift on what it was. You can't really do anything about that. It's just a characteristic of lifting your 40 or with the solid axles. That's pretty much it from the outside. Yeah, that's our 9.5 dB antenna on the UHF. Yeah, it's pretty much it for the outside. One thing I forgot to note is that the rear springs are rated to 150 kilos constant load. So yeah, so they just rated that. I mean, generally this doesn't come off the car, so it just needs to be rated to all its gear doesn't come off the car. So the rear springs really need to be rated to account for that weight, and yeah, and they do a good job of that. Okay, start inside the car. So inside the car, start at the front. So nothing super extravagant there. We just got a ram mount that we mount a bit of hardware on there. That just bolts into the dashboard. Really handy thing to have in your car because you don't have to worry about it being suction capped to the windscreen and falling off on the rough roads. That's bolted in there and is absolutely rock solid. The UHF's bolted to it. We can attach any other ram mount to that. I think it's a 1-inch ball mount, and the other side I'll just have my phone. I'll just chuck an overlay over. You can see how it's set up with the phone. Other than that, pretty much stock. I just this little pouch there, I'll just put any like charging cables in there. Other than that, it's completely stock. There's nothing really extravagant in there. I think I will later on put in a Garmin Overlander. That's what's going to be on that ball mount eventually when the money is available. They aren't cheap. We've got our Ingle fridge. I've had that fridge for quite a while now. That was an old car, put it in the new one. That runs off an auxiliary battery that I've got in the back. I'll show you that in a second. Yeah, it's run fine for years, and yeah, I'd probably love an excuse to replace it, but because it is getting a bit old and dirty, but yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah, it just runs. It's an Ingle. It probably won't ever stop running. So, but I know I love it. It's been fine. 38 litres. That's the Ingle Eclipse. It's supposed to be for like a marine application, but it runs perfectly fine in the truck. All the internals are exactly the same to the other your regular Ingles. The only thing it doesn't have any of the fancy Bluetooth connection with the phone. It's just got a simple knob. It's just on off, and you just adjust the thermostat from there. Uses hardly any power. I think 3 amps once it's up and running, and when it is running. And it's been fine for years. Love it, and it's been great. In the back, yeah, so this is the back of the car. There we go. Let's get some of this out of the way. I'll show you the dual battery system. So the dual battery itself, the auxiliary battery, so your little Antron lithium battery, it just sits in there. Yeah, the wiring does look a bit messy, but it's all fused up and safe. I'll be making some changes to that later on, and putting an actual probably power box in there. But at the moment, that auxiliary battery only weighs 7 kilos, so it's a lithium battery. It's only 50 amp hours, but it runs the fridge for probably up to a week, actually, and on hot days down to probably 3 or 4 days without an issue. But that's the only thing. The only thing it's running is just the fridge itself. If I need to charge anything, I'll just use this little charging port or the one in the front of the car, and it doesn't seem to have too much of an effect on the main battery itself. We do have, to monitor it, we've just got this little Victron shunt. So they've that just Bluetooths to your phone and just measures essentially the current coming in and out of the battery. That'll give you your battery status, and it's really handy little thing. I'll just put a little overlay on so you can see how that works. Okay, so we're just back in the garage at home. I forgot to mention that that secondary battery was auxiliary charged by a Red Arc DC charger 1225D. So that just takes power from the main battery and converts it to a profile suitable for charging the lithium battery in the back. So it just operates when the truck's running, and then isolates it when the truck's switched off, so you don't have the risk of the main battery going flat. So yeah, ARB draw system, really strong draw system. Excuse the red dirt. Still haven't fully cleaned this car out. This is our last trip. We just keep pretty much our kitchen in here, so crash pad kitchen there, that just hangs up from the awning. Just a collapsible tub, and our stove is in there, and billies, and and what else is in there as well. This is, you can bring this out, it slides out, and that's good for, use that to sort of prepare food on or pop things on. We use this as a bit of a this box is just a like a pantry essentially, so all those pantry top items goes in there. It's a really good rock solid box, but we're looking at probably going for some of the front runner boxes that we can actually easily take in and out. We just found that having that option to be able to take the boxes out might be it's probably an easy way of doing it. A few bits and pieces down the side wings, just spares and jumper packs and things like that down the side wings there. Okay, one of my favourite mods is, this front runner. If that stays open, we're on a bit of an angle here, so front runner tailgate table. So this is really handy. Very, very handy little setup. That essentially serves as our kitchen. Stove will sit on top of that, and yeah, and then with the awning wrapping around the top, that serves as our kitchen essentially. Yeah, that's the back of the car. Okay, so in terms of water, we've sorted the issue out now, but we've got a Drifter Stockton water bladder. Now that it functions fine, so it uses gravity to pump the water out. But what we found on the trip, and we didn't actually solve it until after we got back, was it's it took quite a while to get the taste of plastic out of it. So it took quite a lot of flushes on the trip of vinegar and baking soda to get the taste of plastic sort of out of the bladder, and we really couldn't use it for drinking water essentially. So we used it for washing up and things like that. But for the time of the trip, I spent the whole trip trying to flush it out, and it wasn't until I actually got home, flushed it a few more times, that it seemed to have got rid of the taste, and it's actually usable in terms of drinking water. Again, you know, it was untested when we put it in the car for the trip. First time using a water bladder as opposed to water jerrys and things like that. So lesson learned there. It seems to be working okay now, yeah, so we'll see how it goes in the future. We've got a Drifter Stockton seat organizer. If I'm traveling solo, it'll just be on the passenger, the front of the passenger seat, where I can easily access things, but just basically holds my drone and a few other bits and pieces like that, charging cables and things like that. It's been no dramas at all. It is a little bit hard to get to when it's in the back, when you've got, you know, bags and clothes and bits and pieces in there as well. But yeah, it's been not too bad at all. Now, one of my favourite mods is the onboard air system. So we've got an ARB single compressor, which is hidden under the passenger seat there. That just, so that's just hardwired into the car. And we've got it made up to ARB hose and your an Indiflate. So that Indiflate I absolutely love. So I can pump up 2 tyres at the same time, and it just makes things, it's not necessarily the fastest way of doing it, but it's just heaps easier. You're not crouching down for, you know, while you're trying to let your air out and your air in. It's just an easier way of doing it, and I absolutely love it. So that's pretty much our build as it stands at the moment. Won't be too many changes coming. We'll do a few little mods, like adding a bit of lighting here and there, and we'll definitely make some changes to the electrical system in the back. That's a little bit unfinished at the moment. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, so if you did like the video, do me a favour, just click that like button down the bottom. It really does help us in terms of building the channel. It's only pretty much brand new at the moment. We're going to start working on getting some better videos and content up there to make it a bit more interesting for people to watch. But if you can, yeah, start clicking that like button, subscribing, doing that sort of stuff, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so we'll see you in the next video.